Chapter 17. You have no need to worry about yourself. The unspoken truth is a direct challenge to every idea that most people hold about themselves, to say nothing about the idea they hold about God. It is also central to the question of how things come about. It has more than anything else to do with how reality becomes reality. Understanding, to say nothing of teaching, the process of personal creation requires us to talk a lot to God. I have done so in my conversations with God, and some of what I'm going to say in this chapter will be found in my previous books detailing those conversations. If you've read one or more of those books, what follows will be familiar. Please indulge me, on behalf of those who have not read those earlier writings. And note that there is no harm in revisiting these insights. As I've said on several occasions now, many messengers who would tell others about the law of attractions seldom mentions the word God. I believe this is because some of those writers and filmmakers may feel that the idea of God being the source of the energy of attraction takes away from the main point they wish to make, which is that the power lies within you. It seems clear that some of these messengers have made the assessment that, for the general public, an explanation that puts the process of personal creation in people's own hands is what it will find most exciting. Make people feel powerful, some for the first time ever, and you've given them a great gift. I do not disagree with that one bit. Yet believe that if you do not bring God into the process of personal creation, you'll be tempted to think that you are the sole power behind the process instead of thinking that you and God, in partnership, are the sole power behind the process. If you fall to this temptation, I am certain that you will be enormously less effective in manifesting what you wish to create. Personal creation is God's way of saying to us, "Your will is my command." This is a difficult thing for many people to accept. It's a very challenging way for many people to think of God. Most people who believe in God at all, think of God as commanding us. They do not see us as commanding God. Yet God does say to every human being, "Your will is my command." This is true not because God is magnanimous, but because God is ubiquitous, not because of the enormity of God's love, but because of the enormity of God itself. God is so big that there is no place that God is not. This is another stunning truth about life that many people do not fully understand, and that so many religions do not help people fully understand. Many humans think that God is limited in some ways. They believe that there are some places that God is not. They also believe that there are some things that God cannot control. Both of these ideas are inaccurate. Let's look first at this matter of control. You could not lift your little finger if God did not want you to. Therefore, everything that you are doing, indeed, everything that has happened on the earth, lies inside, not outside, the will of God. There are those who say that this or that is not God's will. Yet if something were not God's will, how could it happen? There are those who say that God allows it to happen. Yet if God allows it, would that not then make it God's will? Can a thing that God permits, be said to be a thing that God does not wish to permit? Yet if God wishes to, does God not will to? What is the difference between God's wish and God's will? Everything is God's will, and that is proven by the fact that it is happening. This must be true. Unless we truly are children of a lesser God. Just as God is not limited in terms of power, so is God no limited in terms of size. God is, as noted, ubiquitous. God is everywhere. That means there is no place that God is not. No place. This idea is theologically revolutionary. It announces God's ever-present reality in, and as part of, all things. Including you. Many people believe that God is everywhere, but do not believe that God resides inside them. They may say this out of humility, but actually it is the height of arrogance to imagine that God exists everywhere in the universe except in you. That would make your body, mind, and soul pretty exclusive real estate. If we accept, on the other hand, what even traditional religions say, that God is the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end, the all in all, then we must necessarily conclude that God exists in us. This is a big conclusion, because if it is accurate, and it is, we come upon a most intriguing and significant inquiry: where in us does God exist? In our little finger? In our big toe? In our brain? In our heart? In our soul? Do we even have a soul? Yes. The answer, if God really is the all in all, the Alpha and the Omega, then there can be nowhere in us that God is not. In fact, there is nowhere in anything that God is not. God is everywhere, and is made manifest in everything. This brings us back to the unspoken truth. If God is everywhere in you, if there is nowhere in you that God is not, then God is you. And everything else. Once you understand this, you cannot imagine that life is about you ever again. Not in the sense of you having to be, do, or have anything in particular in order to be happy. Not in the sense of you needing anything, or requiring anything, in order to survive. Living in this truth makes it extremely difficult to get caught up in the minor daily dramas of life as it is currently lived by most people on the earth, and provides a fresh perspective on the really major tragedies and turmoil of our species. For 50 years I lived a case of mistaken identity. I thought I was separated from God. Now I know that this is not true, and that God and I are one. This doesn't mean that I am God in the arrogant sense of those words. This means that I am what God is, and God is what I am. This means that I truly have been made in the image and likeness of God. And so have you. On a strictly personal level, this means that you have no need for anything at all, and so you can drop all of your personal day-to-day dramas right now. Since you're everything you could ever imagine that you need or desire, what is there to be agitated about? You desire love? You are love. You desire abundance? You are abundance. You desire compassion, forgiveness, understanding? You are compassion, forgiveness, understanding. You may not experience that you are these things if you have been living a case of mistaken identity. Yet the fastest way to experience that you are these things is to be these things. And the fastest way to experience yourself being these things is to give these things away. For it is in the giving that you realize and multiply the having, and it is in the having that you experience and expand the being, and it is in the being that you embrace and express the knowing of who you are, and this is the purpose of all life. So don't go around asking, what are we to eat? What are we to drink? Wherewithal shall we clothe ourselves? Seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all else will be added unto you. Do not worry about you. Your life will be taken care of. Worry about everyone whose life you touch who doesn't know this. Conversations with God makes it very clear that your survival is never in question, and the final CWG dialogue, Home with God in a Life That Never Ends, redoubles that message, bringing it forward with unqualified specificity, explaining exactly what is going on during the eternal journey of the soul. This conversation tells us that life itself is an endless loop, and that the energy of life is everywhere present, individuating as you and me and everything that is. The individuated aspects of divinity, what we call souls, travel along this endless loop, from the realm of the absolute to the realm of the relative and back again, over and over through all time, which is the only moment there is, which we call now. The purpose of this continuing journey is to create an eternal opportunity and an infinite context within which we may experience and express, become and fulfill, know and recreate who we are. We seek to know ourselves as that which is divine, in all of the aspects of divinity itself, and we are using eternity and infinity as our tools with which to do that. Eternity and infinity are God's greatest gifts. How can the journey be eternal? Simple. When we reach the end, defined as the ultimate and total knowing and experiencing of who we really are, we simply do, as a whole, what we have been doing as individuated aspects of divinity. We recreate ourselves anew in the next grandest version of the grandest vision of the greatest ever we held about who we are. We then individuate once again, and use the process of life once more to experience that next grandest version, piece by piece. My final dialogue with God gives us a glimpse into that process, and how the great principles of life work. Here, from the text of Home with God. In this Holy Trinity God in three parts, your mind is where your conscious activity takes place. Therefore, think only what you choose to experience, say only what you choose to make real, and use your mind to consciously instruct your body to do only what you choose to demonstrate as your highest reality. This is how you create at the conscious level. Dear reader, what's inside of this parenthesis is a suggestion given for me, the typewriter, to complement this subject. However, this doesn't make part of the original book. If you would like to have a different view but same meaning of this subject, please read the chapter 13, on prayer, of the book known as the Book of Murtad. This book is available for free in the same download link. Look at this closely. Is this not what every master has done? Has any master done more? No. In a word, no.